After I got into grad school in my last life, my parents tricked me into coming home for a blind date. But the guy hated that my dowry request was too high and forced himself on me right in front of his parents. He sneered and mocked me, saying I wasn't a virgin anymore and had no choice but to marry him. If I didn't go along with it, relatives from miles around in our small town would point fingers and shame me to death. But I refused to give in, fighting with all my might. Finally, the guy got furious and strangled me to death on the bed. When I opened my eyes again, I was back before the blind date, looking at the arrogant guy in front of me and my parents who were enabling him. A cold smirk flashed in my eyes. In this life, I'm going to ruin your family and make you pay in blood. When Chad dragged me into the room, I could still hear Chad's mom cheering him on. That old woman, who had been abused and controlled by her husband for decades, stared at me with gleaming eyes, while praising her son. You're really my son, you come up with good ideas. Asking for a $200,000 dowry. Isn't that trying to kill our family? Mom will guard the door for you. Hurry up and take this slut. Once she's no longer pure, let's see if she dares to ask for so much. With that, she locked the bedroom door from the outside. About to be assaulted, I didn't just sit there and wait. While he was taking off his clothes, I grabbed the ashtray from the bedside table and smashed it hard on Chad's head. I hit him really hard, and his head immediately started bleeding. He cried out in pain, glaring at me furiously. The next second, he lunged at me and grabbed my neck tightly. As he was choking me, he viciously tore at my clothes. Jane Doe, how dare you hit me? I'm telling you, even if I don't do anything today, as soon as you leave our house, you'll be damaged goods that someone slept with. I was going to be nice to you, but who knew you're such a slut who won't take the easy way out? While saying that, he ripped off my clothes in 2 moves and was about to force himself on me. But I kicked him right in the groin. This time, he was completely enraged, and the hand around my neck tightened suddenly. My vision went black. In my last moments of consciousness, I heard Chad's panicked voice. Mom, this slut isn't breathing. I was dead. My body lost all feeling, but my soul slowly rose. I saw in the police station my mother crying hysterically over my body, but Chad's mother offered to compensate her $200,000. The condition was simple. She had to provide a letter of forgiveness. And she also had to tell the police that Chad and I were actually in a relationship. My death was just an accident. Because the lawyer they hired said that the maximum penalty for rape resulting in death was the death penalty. But if it was a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, killing someone would be abuse. Only 2 to 7 years in prison. If there was also a letter of forgiveness, the sentence might even be only 2 years, with probation. For those $200,000, my mother agreed. Looking at my body, which had died unfairly, my mother and father were beaming. Lily, it's not that Mom doesn't want to get revenge for you, but that's $200,000. $200,000. With this $200,000, your brother can get married and put a down payment on a house. You are a hero of our family now. Besides, you don't want our family line to end, do you? Looking at that heartless family, I felt like my heart was being cut open. I hated them so much I felt like bleeding. Just as I was about to pounce on that family, I suddenly went black. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the luggage in my hand and my parents standing in the bus station with forced smiles. I realized I was reborn. I was reborn to the time I first came home. Seeing me get off the bus, my mother, who always looked down on me, rushed forward and grabbed my luggage. You ungrateful brat. I raised you for so long, and as soon as you went to college, you got too independent and didn't come home for 2 or 3 years. And why is this luggage so heavy? Let me see. So many clothes. You weren't studying hard in college, just dressing yourself up? Looking at my mother's slightly jealous complaining, I just wanted to sneer. In my last life, she said the same things to me. I just thought she was harsh on the outside but soft on the inside, that she missed me but didn't know how to show it. Otherwise, why would she, who always disliked me, mobilize the whole family to pick me up at the station this time? But now I knew. She was being nice to me only because my younger brother was old enough to get married. But the family couldn't afford the high dowry, so they could only trick me into coming home to marry someone. By selling her daughter, she would get a wife for her son. Having figured this out, Listening to my mother's passive-aggressive words again, I just felt a wave of disgust. Reborn, I wasn't planning on putting up with this nonsense anymore, and immediately retorted with a cold smile. Don't you know in your heart why I didn't come home? After going to college, the family didn't give me a single cent. Besides classes, I worked odd jobs, and I still have tens of thousands in student loans. Where would I get the money to come home? After saying that, I snatched the suitcase from my mother's hand and said sarcastically, also, my grades were #1 in my department every year in college, and I earned the money to buy these clothes myself by working. How can you slander me? As soon as I finished speaking, I saw the look of disbelief on my mother's face. If it were me in my previous life, I would never have said such harsh words to her. I always felt sorry for her because she was abused by my alcoholic father and had to work hard to manage the family and raise 2 children, me and my brother. So even though she favored boys, I still felt sorry for her and willingly took on most of the housework. I even worked part-time to help with household expenses during my crucial senior year of high school. But the truth showed me. The first lesson for Asian girls is to learn to let go of the urge to save their mothers. I will always remember hearing the phone call my mother made to Chad before he dragged me into the room in my previous life. When she found out Chad was going to rape me, she wasn't worried about me instead. She cursed at me angrily. She called me a slut for meeting the groom before the wedding. She also said it was all my own fault. If my dowry was reduced by even a cent because Chad raped me, I would have to pay her back double out of my own pocket. After cursing me, she cried and said how miserable her life was. She said her son was ruined now. With such a worthless older sister, he wouldn't be able to marry a good wife in the future. Thinking of this, my hatred for her grew stronger. My mother looked at me staring at her, and swallowed the insult she was about to say. She muttered awkwardly, "You know the family's not well off." After saying that, I looked at my brother's latest model sneakers and scoffed. My mother also followed my gaze and immediately shut up. My father, who usually didn't get involved, saw that my mother was speechless and glared at her fiercely. But when he turned to me, his attitude was unusually good. "Lily, your mom doesn't understand anything. Don't listen to her nonsense. You haven't been back for a while. You're graduating soon. It's only right to rest at home for a while." After saying that, he laughed a couple of times and took my luggage. But I didn't want to talk to him anymore and got into the minivan first. The ride back to town was bumpy, and the air was humid and stuffy. My brother was playing a shooting game with the sound on loud, cursing at his teammates with foul language. In such an uncomfortable environment, my thoughts were unusually clear. I carefully replayed everything that happened in my last life. I was the most ordinary girl in our small town, an alcoholic father, a mother who favored boys, and a good-for-nothing younger brother. In a family like this, my ultimate fate was to reach adulthood at 18 in a daze, then marry a man and have children, using my womb to get a dowry of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most of my peers also accepted their fate, and their children are already 2 years old now. But I was different. After finishing middle school, I was the top student in the entire county. But my father wanted me to drop out and work on an assembly line. It was the female principal from the neighboring county who came to our house. She redeemed me and took me to her school with a $50,000 scholarship. Even so, she was still afraid my father would make me drop out midway. She even signed a contract with him, stating that if he breached the contract, the $50,000 scholarship would have to be repaid double. That's how I got to go to high school. When I took the college entrance exam, I didn't disappoint and became the top scorer in the county again, successfully getting accepted into a prestigious university. But my father said a woman's virtue is in her lack of talent and forced me to give up going to college. He wanted me to go work in the South to earn money for my brother's down payment. In front of the reporters who came to interview me from the county, he spouted nonsense on camera. "Jane Doe is the bane of our family. If she hadn't sucked up all my son's intelligence, she wouldn't be where she is today. I really don't get this society now. Back in our day, girls got married at 15. And now they're even letting them read books? I think you people have too much time on your hands. I'm telling you right now, any school that sends her an acceptance letter, I'll tear it up. You want her to go to school? Fine. You have to buy one, get one free. Take my son with her too. As soon as he said that, coupled with the spread of public opinion on the internet, he became notorious. Under pressure from public opinion, the county leaders personally delivered the acceptance letter to me and arranged a special car to take me to the university to enroll. During college, I excelled academically and finally gained the appreciation of a leading figure in my field. That professor admired me and agreed to take me on as a student after I finished undergrad. My professor's wife knew about my family situation and, feeling sorry for me, even introduced me to several part-time jobs. The income from these jobs ensured I had food and meals at school. After finishing undergrad, I followed my professor's wife's suggestion and went home to change my residency. Just when I was one step away from escaping this small town, the accident happened. The matchmaker brought Chad to my house. My parents, beaming, tried to set me up with this stranger, just because he offered the most dowry. I struggled in every way. Until the day I was supposed to change my residency, I went to Chad's house to lay it all out. But Chad cursed and pinned me to the bed, choking me to death. Thinking about this, I almost bled with hatred. I was supposed to have the most beautiful future. I worked so hard to get into college, and then got into grad school through fierce competition. If I worked hard, I would even become a government-sponsored student and study abroad in the future. And now, I was being openly sold by my parents to a man who didn't even finish middle school. Why? Was it just because I was a woman? I wouldn't accept it. In this life, I'm going to ruin all of you and make you pay for it in blood. The minivan bumped into the county town, and I got out first. The matchmaker was already waiting at my doorstep. When she saw me, the old hag's eyes immediately lit up. I knew what she was looking at. I was very pretty, not the kind of wild, extravagant beauty of a socialite radiating wealth, but the kind of gentle, homey beauty that was suitable for marriage. In matchmaker jargon, it was easy to marry style, the favorite of cheap men. Initially, my professor also judged me by my appearance. It wasn't until I rejected the local male classmates who came on to me, and then immediately started skillfully cutting brain tissue for experiments that he finally truly accepted me. Seeing the matchmaker's impressed look, my mother was incredibly proud and said haughtily to her, "See, this is my daughter. I'm telling you, she's a top student from a prestigious university. Don't you dare look down on her and introduce us to any trashy guys." After saying that, the matchmaker nodded repeatedly. She quickly turned around, eager to contact the groom's family at the agency. Looking at the matchmaker's receding back, I felt nothing but sarcasm. When I got into college back then, they didn't care. Now that my education was a plus in the marriage market, they were proud of me instead. I looked at my mother coldly and scoffed. When did I agree to look for a partner? How dare you find a matchmaker without my permission? As soon as I said that, before my parents could even speak, my brother, who had been playing games with his head down, looked up and sized me up with disdain. "You're an old woman in your 20s. What else are you going to do besides get married? In another 2 years, when your uterus shrinks, can you still have a son? If you give birth to 5 or 6 worthless daughters for your in-laws, and they ask us to return the dowry, we won't return a single cent." As soon as he finished speaking, I slapped him hard across the face. I used a lot of force, and my brother was completely unprepared. The slap sent his phone flying. He looked at me, covering his face in disbelief. "Jane Doe, how dare you hit me?" Seeing her precious son being hit, my mother immediately rushed over to him, covering his face and checking on him. Seeing that his face was swollen from the slap, she immediately turned her head, the pretense of motherly love completely gone from her eyes. She glared at me fiercely, like I was her enemy. "Jane Doe, you worthless girl. How dare you hit my son? Am I too nice to you or something?" Watching my mother's furious reaction, I just wanted to laugh. Just one slap was enough to reveal this woman's true colors. But she knew that my brother had been hitting and cursing me since we were kids. The year I was in senior high, my brother got into the worst high school in the county with money. My mother said I was selfish and only cared about my own studies, not helping my brother. She forced me to tutor him. But when I was explaining a problem, my tone was just a little bit impatient. My brother punched me in the face. He cursed me, saying I was just an outsider and how dare I yell at him. I cried and told my mother. My mother, however, didn't take it seriously and comforted me. Your brother just has a bad temper, but he's not a bad person at heart. As his older sister, you need to learn to give in to him. Just like that, I endured for over 20 years. Maybe in my previous life, I would have continued to endure. But in this life I wouldn't. Because I knew the cost of caring about these people. It was being completely drained by them. Never to find peace. I watched coldly as my mother spoke to me viciously, but I was still unafraid. Because I knew they wouldn't lay a hand on me now. After all, I was the biggest cash cow in this family right now. If I was disfigured, the matchmaker would definitely haggle, and the dowry would be greatly reduced. Sure enough, even though I was being so disobedient, my usually traditional father acted completely out of character. He quickly pulled back my mother, who was rushing forward to avenge my brother. Then he turned to me with a smile, trying to comfort me. Lily, don't listen to your mother cursing you. Your mother is just going through menopause. She and your brother actually miss you a lot. Right. After saying that, he glared at my mother threateningly. Then, as if reminding her how much I was worth now, he squeezed her wrist meaningfully. My mother winced in pain and instinctively nodded fearfully. Seeing my brother reluctantly apologize to me, I pretended to go along with it and coldly accepted his apology. After all that was done, facing my father's expectant expression, I chuckled lightly. Dad, it's not that I don't want to get married, it's just that you should have told me in advance so I could prepare properly. Everything I'm wearing now is cheap stuff. If I go on a blind date like this, they'll definitely look down on me. If they look down on me, can they give me a high dowry? As soon as I said this, my father and mother's expressions immediately changed. Seeing them finally getting the point, a smile flashed in my eyes. My father seemed to have an epiphany. He looked me up and down, then immediately spoke to my mother. Lily is a girl who went to college, she's different. You go cancel the matchmaker for now. Tomorrow, go buy Lily some nice clothes on the street, and then have the matchmaker bring people over. We can't let the matchmaker underestimate our girl. With the head of the household speaking, my mother had to compromise, no matter how unwilling she was. She gritted her teeth and glared at me, reluctant but helpless. When my father gave the order, no one in the family dared to defy him. After putting down my luggage, I completely ignored my mother's hint for me to do housework. I lay on the bed and slept soundly until noon. After waking up, I ignored my mother's resentful look and sat down at the table. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I sat on the sofa with my legs crossed, picking my teeth while playing on my phone, leaving my mother alone to clean up the mess. Based on my personality in my last life, I would never have done something like this. I would have felt sorry for my mother and willingly taken over the dishwashing, telling her to rest. But now, I wasn't going to put myself through that anymore. Because I knew my mother's suffering was her own doing. It was her own fault for spoiling her son rotten. And it was her own choice to continue living with her alcoholic husband. As a daughter, I had no obligation to bear the hardships that belonged to her. But my mother couldn't stand me being so idle. While cleaning up, she hinted sourly, I'm just destined to work hard. My son and daughter are both ungrateful, and I don't even have anyone to help me at this age. She probably thought I would feel sorry for her. But I just smiled coldly and raised an eyebrow. Mom, it's not that I don't want to help you. People say daughters are guests. If the matchmaker suddenly came to our house now and saw me doing housework here, they would definitely look down on me. Then when she tells the groom's family that my own family doesn't value me, they'll look down on me and the dowry won't be much either. As soon as I said this, my father immediately fell for it. He glared fiercely at my mother. Then he turned to me and said with a smile, praising me, My daughter is right. It's your mother, she's short-sighted and doesn't know any better. Don't pay attention to her. I smiled and nodded, going along with his words. Dad, you're right. To prepare for the blind date properly, I even watched strategy videos all night yesterday. As I spoke, I sent him several videos on his phone. I heard from experts that if you wear and use cheap things, the person you're meeting will look down on you. Don't just look at it as a simple blind date, there's a lot to it. Matchmakers are the most cunning. They'll even collude with the groom's family to lower the dowry for the woman. Then they can get a fat commission. Hearing that last sentence, my father's eyes suddenly widened. Matchmakers also get commissions. I immediately nodded seriously. Yes, matchmakers are really cunning. We learned about it in class. The teacher said they just handled a case last year where the guy and the matchmaker agreed to pressure the woman to lower the price. The original $480,000 dowry was pressured down to $150,000. In the end, that matchmaker got a whole $100,000 in commission. After saying that, I subtly noticed my father's eyes widening suddenly, and I twisted the knife at the end. We can't let the matchmaker find our weaknesses and take advantage of us. As soon as it involved his own interests, my father's head cleared up and his eyes weren't blurry anymore. He immediately said that I had to look glamorous when meeting the blind date. Absolutely no way the matchmaker was going to lower the price. I nodded with satisfaction. Just like that, at my father's urging, my mother had to take me to buy clothes. Although the county I lived in was small, the cost of living in some places wasn't low. I ignored my mother's pained expression and swaggered into the mall. Looking at the $3,000 top, $2,000 skirt, and $1,500 shoes at the counter, I waved my hand and told my mother to pay. My mother was about to refuse but remembered my father's raised fist towards her. She could only grit her teeth and take out the money. Seeing her look like she was bleeding money, I found it incredibly ironic. Because the money she felt so bad about was the money I gave her. When I first went to college, I was penniless and had tens of thousands of dollars in student loans. At this time, my mother came to me crying poverty, saying the family couldn't make ends meet, and asked if I had any money. I was so naive and believed her lies. For 4 years of college, I worked my tail off, even fainting at my desk from low blood sugar once. And this family clung to me like leeches. In 4 years, they sucked a whole $70,000 out of me. Reborn, I could choose to let myself off the hook and just move my residency and leave. But that would be too easy on these heartless, selfish jerks. Not only do I want a bright future for myself, I also want to make these people cough up all the blood they sucked out of me, and then pay for it in blood. To really milk these animals for money, I changed my usual simple appearance and went on a huge shopping spree. Besides clothes and shoes, I walked to the Apple store. I was going in to buy the latest iPhone 2. At this point, my mother couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed my arm tightly, her eyes practically shooting fire. Jane Doe, that's enough. Am I being too nice to you? Asking for things is one thing, but now you're getting carried away. Seeing my mother's anxious look, I innocently held up my old phone with the screen cracked like a spiderweb. But Mom, I'm dressed nicely, and I'm holding a Nokia. Does that look right to you? Won't they see right through me and know I'm faking it? After saying that, I softly comforted her. Don't worry, this store has a 7-day no questions asked return policy. I'll buy it to use for a bit, and after the blind date, I'll just return it, right? As I spoke, I opened the Taobao app on my phone and showed the screen to my mother. She saw the 7-day no questions asked return label on it. The look on her face improved slightly. She glared at me fiercely, laying down the ground rules. Then I'm warning you, don't you try any tricks on me. After the blind date is over, if you can't return it, you'll pay me back the full price. Seeing my mother give in, I quickly nodded. I rushed straight into the phone store and bought the latest iPhone outright. I was tall, so when my mother paid, I glanced down at the balance on her phone. There were only a few $100s left. This time, I had completely squeezed her dry. I nodded with satisfaction. Then, with a pretense of generosity, I treated her to some fried skewers. When I got home, I immediately took out the SIM card from my old phone. I put the card into the new phone and activated the system. No one in the family had used an Apple phone before. My brother woke up from a nap and saw the phone box on the coffee table in the living room. His eyes immediately widened. Jane Doe, who bought you this? I deliberately showed off, shaking the phone at him. Mom bought it for me, how about that? As soon as I said that, he couldn't sit still and rushed into the kitchen to complain to my mother. After all, even though he was the favorite, Mom wasn't willing to buy him the latest model phone. looking at my brother who was an adult but still childish. I just felt like laughing. See, this is the adult baby you spoiled. It was indeed real gold. Rubbing the heavy gold, a smile flashed in my eyes. Give it back to you? Why would I? This is my money. We deliberately arrived 10 minutes late before entering the coffee shop. It was completely different from my last life. In my last life, the matchmaker brought a very impatient Chad into my house. He immediately saw me wearing cheap clothes, with messy hair and an apron, looking exhausted and washing dishes in the kitchen. Because of this, he automatically classified me as an easy-to-deal-with housewife. He was very dismissive of me. But this time it was completely different. I had on exquisite makeup and wore light luxury brands. Even the breeze I created carried the fresh scent of the provincial capital. When I sat across from Chad, I deliberately used my hand with the bracelet on it to adjust the gold-rimmed glasses on my nose. Even though it was just normal dressing for college, it made this inexperienced animal, who only bullied the weak, lower his head. Watching him completely lose his arrogance, a hint of sarcasm flashed in my eyes. The matchmaker saw how high profile I was and felt a bad feeling in her heart. She deliberately scrutinized me up and down critically, trying to support Chad. Oh my, a talented student from the provincial capital. No sense of time at all, making us wait so long. Also, young lady, don't mind me saying this, but your skirt is a bit too short. It attracts too much attention. Around here, only certain women dress like that. Looking at the matchmaker nitpicking. My father, who was sitting next to me, knew she was trying to lower the dowry. He was about to stand up and curse her, but I pressed him down. I just smiled faintly and said sarcastically, my professor was holding a group meeting earlier. It ran a bit late. Also, since you're giving me advice, don't mind me saying a little more. The other day, I went to get my nails done and saw your daughter go into a motel with two young men. Guess what? Your daughter was wearing a skirt just like mine. After saying that, I pretended to be surprised. Could it be that your daughter is also? Oh my God, this is terrible. I remember the custom around here is that if a girl sleeps with someone before marriage, no one will want her. Seeing my feigned surprise and exaggerated claims, the matchmaker clearly got anxious. She pointed at my nose and cursed. You little batch, what are you talking about? That's bull's hat. My daughter is very respectable. The county town was small. Even the coffee shop staff knew us. Hearing gossip, they all craned their necks, eagerly eavesdropping. Watching the matchmaker's anxious state, I felt incredibly sarcastic. In my last life, after Chad strangled me to death, the matchmaker's business immediately declined. Everyone said she earned dirty money, specifically introducing violent, low-quality men to girls. And to continue making money, that matchmaker started spreading rumors about me with her daughter, saying it wasn't her fault at all. She said I was promiscuous while attending university in the provincial capital, and had even slept with black men. After I got myself dirty, I ran to Chad's house and demanded an exorbitant dowry. That's what angered the honest and decent Chad. Gossip can kill people. Watching the matchmaker, who was now unable to defend herself, a smile flashed in my eyes. Since she liked spreading rumors so much, I would let her and her daughter experience being the target of rumors. Seeing my innocent look, the matchmaker was furious. She pointed at my nose and said she would sue me for defamation. To her surprise, I pulled out my phone and showed her a picture. In the photo, her daughter was surrounded by 3 or 4 young men in a billiard hall. Her daughter was also wearing a white shirt that was see-through and a short skirt that reached her thighs. This made the matchmaker, who often boasted about her daughter being honest and decent, shut up immediately. Seeing how I was acting, she stood up with a cold laugh. Fine, you little girl. You've read too many books and think you're so great. I can't do this business with you anymore. After saying that, she fled in a panic. After she left, I looked at Chad, who was sitting across from me. Looking at the neatly dressed Chad in front of me, I smiled slightly. Chad's eyes were fixated on me. He stared at me for a long time, unable to say anything. After a while, he finally managed to say something. Wait, I'll call my parents. Looking at how timid he was, I just wanted to laugh. 10 minutes later, Chad's parents finally arrived. completely different from their arrogant and entitled attitude in my last life. After seeing how difficult I was to deal with, their attitude immediately improved. Chad's mom smiled and asked me a few questions, mostly about how many children I wanted to have, what I was studying, and what I planned to do in the future. I answered with a slight smile. I want to have 2 boys in the future. I'm currently studying biology in the provincial capital, but I plan to take the teacher's exam in our county later. It'll be convenient for raising children. Pretty, with good manners, willing to have children, and planning to become a teacher in the future. This was practically the ideal wife and mother of the new era. After saying that, I pretended to be shy and glanced at Chad. Chad looked very embarrassed when I looked at him. Completely different from the previous life, without the matchmaker belittling me in the middle. Chad's parents were very nice to me. They even generously increased the original $100,000 dowry to $250,000. Hearing that I could be sold for so much money, my father's mouth stretched into a wide grin. On the way back, he kept telling me to spend more time with Chad in the next few days. Looking at how obsessed with money he was, a sarcastic smile flashed in my eyes. But I still agreed gently. When I got home, I saw my brother sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed. He was holding the same model iPhone as me. He was also wearing the latest model running shoes, his feet propped on the coffee table. In the game he was playing with the sound on, his friend said, "Dude, where do you go to get rich? How do you suddenly buy such expensive gear?" Seeing me walk in, he immediately showed off, answering with a proud attitude, "Mind your own business where I got rich. Tonight at the billiard hall, I'm meeting up with a few assistant girls. I'm treating. Wanna come? Why not go when someone else is paying?" His friend quickly agreed. But I pretended not to see anything and walked straight into my room. In the following days, Chad, under his parents' instruction, started asking me out frequently. I happily accepted, because I knew I had to make my parents lower their guard around me. While my parents were at work and my brother was out partying, I made an excuse to go out with Chad and stole the household registration book. I went to the local police station, filled out the forms, and got the transfer permit. Looking at the heavy gold bracelet on my wrist, which was there to impress, and the household registration that I had transferred out, I let out a long sigh of relief. Now that I had a way out, all that was left was to make those people pay. Chad was very happy with me. He had thought that since I was well educated, I would look down on him. But I was like the main character in that movie, patient and understanding with him. This made him ecstatic. After having hot pot at the mall, I made an excuse to go to the restroom. When I came back, I saw him in the mall hallway, smoking and bragging to his friends. "I'm telling you, I'm serious about this one. She's pretty, she's going to be a teacher, and the most important thing is, she's not materialistic at all. Once I get this virgin, I'll go out and party with you guys again." He had his phone on speaker. His friends congratulated him a couple of times, then asked hesitantly, "What about Lisa? Didn't you used to be close to her? She said yesterday that you had already discussed marriage." Hearing Lisa's name, my eyes flashed with a knowing light. Finally, I heard what I wanted to hear. I turned on the voice recorder on my phone. Then Chad sneered, "Do you think I'm some cuckold on the internet? Someone like Lisa, who's been with I don't know how many guys, is only good for having some fun. You actually want to marry her? If you're not grossed out, I am. You have to marry someone pure. You wouldn't understand." His words, however, made his friend hesitate. "But what if Lisa comes looking for you?" As soon as he finished speaking, Chad spat viciously, a disgusting smile on his face. "She's coming to find me? Perfect. I took some good stuff when I was with her. If she dares to make a fuss, I'll take these things out and share them with my bros." As soon as he finished speaking, before his friend could say anything else, he hung up the phone. Looking at the smug Chad, a sarcastic smile flashed in my eyes. Chad was a guy who loved to take advantage of others. He used sweet talk to trick a young, pretty receptionist. After he was done taking advantage, he turned around and went on blind dates, looking for a virtuous wife and loving mother to serve him and have his children. But how could there be such a good thing in this world? In my last life, after I died, Chad was arrested by the police. He needed money for compensation to my family and money for bribes and connections. Chad only had a few bucks and it wasn't enough at all. Desperate, Chad had his parents take the video of him and his ex-girlfriend Lisa to her, trying to blackmail Lisa. Lisa was afraid of the exposure and could only give him the $100,000 she had saved. But in this life, Chad wanted to do the same thing, and it wasn't going to happen. Friday afternoon. As soon as I got back from outside, I heard my mother's sharp cries. "How dare you smash my things? How dare you arrest my son? I'm calling the police. If anything happens to my son, I'll make you pay." After that, there was a more violent sound of things being smashed inside the door. Accompanied by the sound of destruction, was a laid-back thug's voice. "How dare we smash your things? Go ask your son. How dare you report our billiard hall for illegal activities? It's a compliment I didn't beat him to death. Your son is with us now. You have 3 days to come up with the $500,000 he owes us. For every day late, I'll chop off one of your son's fingers." After saying that, the thugs who had come to cause trouble swaggered away. I entered the house with a cold expression. The house was already a mess. My mother was sitting in the living room, crying her eyes out. Seeing me, she rushed into my arms as if she had found her backbone, crying hysterically, "Lily, you have to save your brother. He's innocent." Looking at my mother's unreasonable behavior, I just wanted to laugh. He's innocent? Even dogs wouldn't touch Shat if he was innocent. These past few days, I used the money my father gave me to treat the girls who frequented the billiard hall to a few meals. I successfully infiltrated their group, so I knew about my brother's situation early this morning. These past few days he got into loans, and the speed at which he got sucked in was much faster than I expected. He treated the borrowed money like free money and spent it freely. Besides buying phones, clothes, and game skins, in just 2 weeks he had spent a full $20,000 on women at the billiard hall. But that girl had a rich County Brahmin wealthy boyfriend. And yesterday he just happened to run into that Brahmin. The billiard hall owner would never give up his true sugar daddy for him, so he had the girl be the sugar daddy's exclusive companion. This really pissed off my brother. He chugged 2 bottles of beer, first trashed the place, and then got into a fight with the sugar daddy. After being kicked out by the bodyguards, he was still upset and reported the billiard hall for illegal activities, wanting to take them down with him. But he didn't know. The people who could open businesses in gray areas like billiard halls in a small county were local toughs with connections. So now, the billiard hall was unharmed, but my brother was arrested instead. And according to the girls at the front desk, the boss was very angry and said he would make this idiot pay dearly. The family was in tears and chaos. My father didn't dare to show up, so he sent me out to be humiliated. The billiard hall in the county was easy to find. I had initially thought their demand for $500,000 in compensation was excessive, but after actually seeing the trash place, I honestly felt that $500,000 was not unreasonable at all. Seeing me arrive, the thugs guarding the place asked who I was looking for. I smiled and looked at the girl standing at the front desk, who had a delicate appearance. "Are you Lisa?" Lisa was stunned for a moment and instinctively nodded. She was about to say something when I smiled and stopped her. "Don't say anything yet. I want you to listen to a recording. After listening, if you think it's worth it, I want to meet the owner of this billiard hall." 10 minutes later, a red-eyed Lisa led me into an office. To my slight surprise, the owner looked very young, only about 27 or 28. He wore a white shirt and gray pants, looking refined and handsome. But unlike his age, he was scolding his sister furiously. "I told you. Study hard and stop messing around. That Chad guy is trash. What were you doing with him? Now look what happened. Your picture was taken. If it gets out, your life will be ruined." Aware of an outsider present, he didn't say anything too harsh. I cleared my throat and finally got his attention. He immediately reacted and shook my hand, thanking me. "Thank you for telling me. Whose daughter are you? I promise I'll reward you handsomely." He looked at me eagerly, but I smiled and pushed his hand away. "I'm from the Miller family. My brother is Tom Miller, the one who trashed your place yesterday." The owner's face stiffened, and before he could ask any questions, I cut him off. "I'm not here to threaten you with your sister's reputation, to get out of the debt this time. On the contrary, not only can I help your sister get the video back from Chad, but I can also make Chad pay for taking secret photos. After saying that, facing the owner's wary expression, I gave a slight smile. As for compensation, you chop off my brother's finger for me, and then ask him for a bit more money. The owner didn't believe me at first, but after inquiring about the situation, he quickly understood. After all, a prestigious university student being forced by her parents to go on a blind date with a high school dropout just to get a dowry for her brother. That would be scandalous anywhere. I made a deal with him. One pinky finger as a deposit. After I get the video from Chad, he would escort me to the bus station. He would then collect the rest of the money from my brother himself. He wasn't worried at all about not getting the money. After all, that was the Miller family's only son and heir. Based on his experience, getting money from my brother would be much easier than from me, a penniless daughter. Through the glass wall, I watched as my brother's finger was brutally chopped off by a very young thug. The splattering blood and flesh, along with my brother's screams, made me feel incredibly satisfied. But it wasn't enough, far from it. One finger wasn't enough to compensate for all the suffering I went through in my last life. I took my brother's finger back home like that. My mother fainted on the spot when she saw it, leaving only my father trembling. The big, burly bodyguards pushed me hard onto the sofa, staring at my father. Stop playing games. You have 2 more days. Don't be short a single cent of the 500,000 cash. My father's eyes were red, but he couldn't say a word about calling the police. Because this was a small county, a place where local customs were far more important than the law, and the local toughs were incredibly powerful. When my mother woke up, she immediately and without hesitation started collecting all the valuable things in the house. In her eyes, her son was everything. Without her son, she had no hope. She would even lose everything to save him. But after calculating everything, even with the gold bracelet I had, they were still short by 200,000. For pairs of bloodshot eyes stared at me. After a while, my mother said in a hoarse voice, word by word, "Lily, that's your brother. Our family's only male child. Just help Mom out this once. If you have a brother, you won't be bullied by your in-laws later." The next day, I walked through the door of Chad's house again. But this time, instead of being overly eager, they looked at me with ill intentions. After the car that brought me left, Chad's mom slowly said, "Jane Doe, you're barely acceptable, but your brother isn't doing so well recently. Seeing as your family needs money urgently now, how about this? I'll give you $50,000 for the dowry, and you marry into our family. You won't get a single cent more." Hearing that, I immediately countered. Didn't we agree on 200,000? Why is it only 50,000? As soon as I finished speaking, Chad, abandoning his usual shyness, glared at me fiercely. He slapped me directly across the face. I could have dodged, but I took the slap head on. After a loud slap, Chad sneered. "Jane Doe, am I being too nice to you? With your pathetic family, giving you $50,000 is being generous." As he said that, he grabbed my hair and started dragging me upstairs. As he dragged me, he cursed the same words as in my last life. "You think you're worth something, slut? I'm telling you, I'm not just going to sleep with you. I'm going to tell everyone. Then everyone in this county will know you're damaged goods that someone's already slept with. Let's see who dares to marry you." After saying that, he opened the bedroom door and threw me onto the bed. Just as he was pinning me down and forcing himself on me, I fought back with all my might and grabbed the base of Chad's groin with one hand. The next second, I squeezed tightly. In this life, I had practiced with a hand gripper for a whole month. I was confident that this time, I could crush Chad's ability to have children. Sure enough, after I ruined his ability to reproduce, Chad clutched his groin and howled in pain. Meanwhile, I pretended to be afraid of him hitting me and scrambled off the bed in a disheveled mess. As I struggled, I gave a casual tug. Chad's ability to reproduce was completely torn off by me. While Chad was howling, I suddenly heard noise from downstairs. It was the police. I knew the billiard hall owner had brought the police. He came to get the private video of his sister that Chad had on his computer, and I needed the police to prove I was acting in self-defense. Article 20 of the criminal law states, Defensive action taken against ongoing acts of assault, murder, robbery, rape, kidnapping, and other serious violent crimes that results in injury or death to the aggressor is not considered a crime. To activate this law, I had to give up something. But in the face of revenge, what were things like innocence and shame? Only by having Chad pay with his life could it be considered fair and just. Chad was thrown in jail for attempted rape. After being examined by the police, Chad went from being the family's pride to being unable to have children. His thing down there was completely ruined by me. Chad's family, just like in the previous life, hired a well-known lawyer to get justice for their son. That lawyer confidently declared he would argue not guilty for Chad. And he even said that my actions were excessive self-defense. In his words, I only lost my virginity, while Chad lost the ability to pass on his family name. Furthermore, he fantasized about using the same tactic as in the previous life. He went to my parents, hoping to pay them off to get a letter of forgiveness from them, and to say that Chad and I were actually in a relationship. Because if we were in a relationship, Chad's sentence for raping me would be reduced. And as for me attacking Chad, it would be considered intentional assault. In that case, Chad would be fine, but I would have to go to jail for a full 5 years instead. But just as his plan was going well, the social media influencer I asked my professor to invite arrived. A student of my professor, a feminist blogger with 3 million followers across all platforms. She gave me an interview boost, and she paid out of her own pocket, investing a full $50,000 in online traffic. The hashtag 985 female student raped by high school dropout, legitimate self-defense results in destroyed reproductive organ went viral at lightning speed. Suddenly, public opinion online surged like a tide towards this small county town. Justice, under the scrutiny of public opinion, was as firm as a mountain. That influencer lawyer, who had been talking about a not guilty defense, because he incited the victim's family to commit perjury, had his law license revoked and would also face several years in prison. As for Chad, he also faced a sentence of up to 7 years in prison for attempted rape. This wasn't enough. Chad's father considered himself the patriarch of the Chad family. But while Chad was in jail for rape, Chad's cousin got into the county's judicial and prosecutorial departments. Unfortunately, because of Chad, his background check also didn't pass. And in this province, where taking civil service exams is very competitive, Chad's existence also made the rest of the Chad family hate him. According to the girl who stayed at the billiard hall front desk, the day his mother found out his son's background check failed because of him, Chad's mother and father were cornered at home and severely beaten. His mother's face was reportedly unrecognizable, while his father was hit in the brainstem by his nephew, whom he had respected since childhood, with a stick. He immediately became a vegetable. The huge medical expenses for the vegetative state also became a burden on the family. As for me, after becoming the focus of the entire internet, I immediately started my own live streaming account. 985 student, dramatic fate, terrible upbringing. These keywords were the hottest topics on the internet at the time. I cried hysterically on camera, recounting my 20 years of pain. From being a diligent student from a small town to a graduate student at a prestigious university. Just when I was succeeding, I was almost dragged back into the abyss by Chad. This true story resonated with many netizens. Carnival, romantic carriage, fantasy castle. The more I cried and cursed Chad, the more live stream donations I received. In just 1 week, I not only made enough money to pay off my student loans, but also had a surplus of a full $500,000. But this was not enough. Even though government-sponsored students studying abroad don't have to pay tuition, the cost of living was still substantial for me. So I needed to earn more money. After draining Chad dry, it was my parents' turn next. In my previous life, they treated me like a blood bag and literally forced me to die. In this life, I wouldn't let them go to jail like Chad. That punishment wasn't enough. In this life, I'm going to make them material for my videos, blood bags to attract traffic for me. They will be endlessly attacked online by my fans. As soon as my traffic drops, I will drag them out and mercilessly expose them again. I will squeeze every last bit of value out of them and nail them to the pillar of shame on the internet forever. By the time I am showered with honors and praised by everyone, they will become the mud beneath my feet, never to find peace. The end.